Welcome to Courage for the Journey. This podcast is available wherever you like to podcast, or you can sign up by going to my website, juliefillinger.com. I am Julie Fillinger, and my desire is that telling my story will encourage you in yours. Welcome back to Christmas Courage. I look around and see people trying to get into the Christmas spirit. But honestly, this is not the most wonderful time of the year for everyone. Those suffering heartache can't muster the strength to put on a brave front. I've been there, and so have many of you. We've been talking about this all month, and I have seen and heard more people opening up about their struggles. And this is so powerful in helping others not feel alone. So if you've been following along, you know I have been interviewing guests that wrote blogs in the series we published this past summer called Sunlit Stories. And as it turns out, these guest authors shared some vulnerable moments that have real application for encouraging us at Christmas. And today, I have Dr. Joe Johnson in the studio. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be here. This is my first podcast.
Oh, okay.
I was going to be on Joe Rogan, but anyway.
There you go. So Joe Rogan. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Dr. Joe, Eric and I met Joe and his wife, Kim. We attended Northbrook Baptist Church together. And then also, when we first got here, there was a Coleman Christian Physicians and Spouses group that used to meet. And then also, little fun fact, Joe, I want to share with the listeners, you and Elvis share a birthday.
Yes.
And a costume.
And a costume.
That's right.
Yes. I'm always amazed at how that comes up in conversation when I meet people. Well, I know someone who knew you and said that you did Elvis, and I'm like, wow, how does that just keep coming up in conversation?
Because it's very interesting.
Yeah.
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 I mean, are your, Elvis days over?
Yeah, I think so. When I lost my tonsil and had throat rage.
That's right.
Affected my voice and everything.
There you go.
But it was good times, and people still remember that too. So,
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you throw your scarves?
No, I've still got. Oh yes, the scarves. Yes, always.
Always. You have to throw a scarf.
Yes,
at least one.
Right.
At least one.
Because there's always somebody in the audience that really thinks that you're Elvis.
Sure.
And,
I mean, you had the hair.
Yeah, I guess. So.
All right, and the voice.
And at that time, yes.
All right. So, Joe, I had a great dad growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He was #girl dad before it was even a thing, before it was cool. He taught me how to play basketball, how to change a tire and shoot a gun. And he dared anyone to act like one of his girls should have been a boy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm number 4, and I didn't even realize that some dads preferred boys until I went to college.
Uh-huh.
All right. So I love it that you are a great girl dad too.
Well, thank you. I try. Still learning.
Well, and your girls are all precious. They're unique, each one of them, and
Definitely.
but they're just so precious. Ours are similar ages. Our children are similar ages, so we had opportunities to interact. When your kids are doing something,
Right.
you're involved in it, and you get to know the other parents. Your oldest, Natalie, a little older than mine, so I don't know her as well, but she seems like a really good mixture of Kim and you.
More Kim than me.
Yeah, well, she looks like Kim.
Yes, definitely.
But she loves baseball.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we got back into baseball, because she became such a fan. We sort of hijacked along with her. So
there you
she
go.
works for the Braves now. So that's
she works. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah. Speak up. Yeah. She works for the Braves now. So
we kind of got back into baseball when she started becoming a big fan.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So, but your other 2 girls participated in some of the same activities as our boys. So Caroline and Nicholas did math team together, and then Caroline and Drew went on choir tour, and Mallory and Drew were in Coleman High School theater. And then I don't know if Natalie went to Sanford.
No, she went to Auburn.
Okay. But Caroline and Mallory both went to Sanford.
Right.
And Caroline married Drew's RA from Sanford University.
Yes.
Right?
Small world. Yes.
Yeah. It was super interesting. And then God bless them with another girl in your life.
I'm completely estrogen overloaded.
Well, but granddaughter Phoebe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She's...
If we have a boy in the family, I'm not sure what we're going to do.
So. Is the dog... You got a dog? Is the dog...
He's a boy, but he's been fixed. So he's not much help.
So there you go. All right. So did Kim and you meet at Samford also?
We did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. And just so you know, I'm saying Sam, not Stan. We like to make that distinction.
Couldn't be more different.
Samford in Birmingham, not Stanford in Cali.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So how fun. That is just a good legacy there. All right. So let's get into the blogs that posted this summer. So June 24th, Navigating Anxiety in the What Ifs of Life. And then on August 5th, Finding Peace in What Is Certain. And I just really appreciated your willingness to share your story. Mm-hmm. So can you describe for us the what if mindset?
Yeah. Well, I think everybody does this. I mean, even when you're little kids, because you don't know what's going to happen in your day. You don't know what's going to happen next week. Even when you're a kid, what if I don't make this grade on this test? Or what if she doesn't go out on a date with me? Or what if he breaks up with me? Or so we all do that. It's just a natural thing.
Sure. What if?
Right. And I think the key is the word mindset. When does our mind get set in something? And I think it really comes. For me, it comes primarily because I hate surprises. I hate bad surprises, and I want to be prepared. I don't want to be caught off guard by anything, which helps me as a doctor. When somebody comes in and they've got a problem, to think, well, these symptoms, what if it's this? Could it be that? And it helps me as a doctor, but sometimes in life it can get to be too much, and so that's you just don't want to be surprised, and you want to try to plan and prepare for everything, which is just not possible.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So why is not knowing all, you talk about this in the blog, and you talk about how not knowing all of the hidden things in God's will, all the hidden things in God's will, why is that a blessing sometimes?
Yeah. Well, I think we all think, wouldn't we like to know what's going to happen in the future? If only I knew what was going to happen tomorrow, if only I knew what was going to happen in my kids' lives, if only I knew what was going to happen in my grandchildren's lives, wouldn't that be great? But then when you really sit down and think about it, particularly once you've lived life for a while and you've experienced things, you're like, if I knew that was coming, I would have gone a different path, and I would have done everything to try to fix that and try to prevent that.
Yeah.
And it's like I read a quote from a pastor, James Montgomery Boyce, who was diagnosed with cancer at age 60. And 2 weeks later, he was preaching to his congregation. And he said, if God brought something in your life, if you had the power to change it, would you? And basically he said, if you had the power to change it and you did, you would make it not as good, because we'd be changing God's plan and will for our life. And our plan and our will is never as good as God's plan and will. So
I know it is. It's incredible to reflect on how God uses these things that we don't want in our lives.
Yes.
Right? But yet he uses them.
Right. No way you and Eric would have ever picked this ministry for y'all.
Oh, but sure.
But how much and how many people have been helped and served and carried through situations because of this. It's like Rick Burgess. I'm sure you're familiar with his story, how they lost a child. And, he said it's a ministry it's a ministry in a club nobody ever wants to be a part of.
Oh, right. You don't want to be a part of this club.
Right.
But
it's
since you are.
Like the cancer club. Nobody ever wants to be in the cancer club.
Right.
And nobody wants to be considered a cancer survivor because that means you had to have cancer to begin with. So, but if we knew these things ahead of time, I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to go down that path because it could lead, because now I know it's going to lead to that kind of pain.
Well, and no, we just want to avoid hard things.
Right. We want to be comfortable. I mean, comfort becomes a guide, and
absolutely
right. And we worship that God, and it's just like we want to do everything possible to avoid discomfort, whether it's physical discomfort or emotional discomfort or professional discomfort. If we could avoid it, which is a natural thing, that's just your self-preservation. We want to do everything we can to avoid that. So,
we've both been on mission trips. And when you go on a mission trip, how life-changing is that? Even just for a week or so, you see how really most of the people in the world live differently. And there's so much that could be uncomfortable, but it's their norm.
Right.
And then you get back home and you're like, nothing
Yeah.
to complain about.
Nothing, right.
Nothing to complain
A
about.
mission trip should be required for every U.S. citizen.
Yes.
It would change our country.
Oh, yes, for sure. Except after some time, we kind of get back to our comfort.
Definitely. Definitely.
We have to go routinely.
Absolutely.
We can't just go once.
Yes.
All right. So are you willing to describe your personal experience in struggling with what ifs?
Yeah. I don't think I coined that phrase, what if, but it really...
Well, you did for me.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you? Okay,
what
okay,
ifs.
Yeah.
The what ifs.
But there was a couple of years in my life, starting in 2022, where it seemed like the what ifs were so common. I mean, this is outside the normal what ifs that we all deal with in our life. What if my car breaks now? What if my kids get sick? In 2022, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. And it all started when I noticed a lump in my neck. And so my first thought was, well, what if that's cancer? Of course, I'm a doctor. I knew that lump was not supposed to be there. And it took probably about 4 months and 3 biopsies and 2 CAT scans before it got diagnosed. And so the whole time I'm thinking, what if that's cancer? What if that's cancer? And I knew probably it was. And eventually it was diagnosed as cancer. And then it was like, well, what if it's a bad kind of cancer? What if it's already spread? And in the course of the workup, and any cancer patient or anybody that's had a health problem can tell you this, until you really know, there's all kinds of uncertainties. And this was uncertainty on a level I had never experienced in my life. God has blessed me so much. It's been a great life, and just never had to deal with this level of uncertainty before. And so then it was diagnosed as cancer, and it's like, well, what if it's already spread? And then we could find out it wasn't and hadn't. So, so there was that, and then I had to have surgery for that. I had to have my tonsils taken out and get the lymph nodes on the right side of my neck taken out. And but at that point, part of the what ifs went away, because I said this should be treatable. It's not metastatic anywhere else. Should be responsive to radiation. Because I was thinking, what if I have to have chemotherapy? And we've all seen people and experienced people that had to go through this. You lose your hair, you lose 50 pounds. It's a grind. And I was like, what if I have to go through all that? And
because it's one thing for someone to say, hey, it hasn't spread.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to treat you.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But then you have to actually go through it.
Right. And nothing's 100%. And it had spread to my neck, but because of the type of throat cancer it was, they said, this is going to be sensitive to radiation. You don't have to have chemotherapy. So, because I've seen people, and we've all seen people with chemotherapy and feeding tubes and central lines and all this kind of thing, and just what a grind it is. And there it was. I was afraid of the discomfort. I was afraid of the uncomfortableness of it all, and losing my hair and all that. So,
well, I mean, radiation's not a big thing.
No, and it wasn't. It was very difficult, and so there was that, and of course, eventually it came through. My mother-in-law said, everything's going to pass, and the ENT, Dr. Black, said, winter's going to be tough, but spring's going to come. So I had lots of reassurances to kind of help me with those what ifs. And then as I was recovering from that, this would be spring of 23, our practice started to have some really significant financial problems, like major financial problems. And we started to dissolve and break up and go away. And, and that caused a lot of financial hardship on us as well.
Well, I know, right on the heels of going through all of this.
Right.
You're like, hey, I feel like I've dealt with enough for 1 year.
Yeah.
Or 2 years or 5 years.
And after years of not really having any really significant, unusual trials, it really caused me to question, what if I'm doing something and this is God's discipline? Or what if I've done something? Or what if I'm not being obedient and God wants me to do this? And so there was, even in that, once I knew that my life was going to be spared from this, there were still a lot of what ifs. And with the practice situation and trying to resolve that and save the practice, because we had 10 doctors and providers, a lot of things had to happen. And it was like, well, what if this doesn't happen? Well, what if they don't sign the papers? What if they don't agree with this? What if we don't get enough money to do this and that and the other? So it was an onslaught of what ifs. And that's when I kind of that's where it sort of hit me. I'm living in the what ifs. I'm living in the what if world right now.
Yeah.
So,
and
what if my voice doesn't come back? What if I don't get strong enough to go back to work, even though I knew I was going to survive? And, what if the effects from the radiation and surgery don't get better? It was just endless.
And so you start feeling some anxiety.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And living in the what if world.
Right.
And just keeping your mindset in that world. Mm-hmm. But you worked through it. You learned how to. It took some time, but you learned how to work through it.
Right.
So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, it was funny because, before I turned in the first blog, I read it.
Yeah.
And after you put it on your page, I read it again. And I thought, if someone's reading this, they think, oh, this guy's got it on, he's on top of it. He knows how to deal with this kind of stuff now. But you're always learning. You always have to relearn the lessons, because probably not 2 or 3 weeks after the second one was posted, the company that bought our practice 2 years ago said, well, we're pulling out in 90 days. So we've got this practice with, 5 doctors and 4 nurse practitioners and thousands of patients. And in 90 days, if we don't come up with something, the doors are going to close. And so all of a sudden that was kind of coming back up. But I think Kim would confirm this, I think I dealt with it better this time, having been through the experiences before of dealing with all those what ifs and seeing how God took care of all those situations. And even though I couldn't see where it was going to go, what if this happens, what if that happens, God knew, and God already had the plan, and it was part of the plan, I think. And so I was able to deal with it a little bit better this time.
I share that too in my testimony, that God has never not been faithful.
Right.
I mean, never not been faithful. 100% track record here. Right.
And I've kind of come to the conclusion, and I think Scripture confirms this, and I read a book by John Piper several years ago called Providence, that God is in control of everything all the time. We can't see it. We don't understand it. We're too limited. We're too finite. We're too sinful. But even the bad things that happen, God causes or allows that to happen. I think Scripture's consistent with that. And so that helps, when bad things happen. When this most recent situation last fall popped up with the practice saying we're going to pull out in 90 days, I was like, okay, God, so I know you must have something better or something good in store for me and the rest of us here. And he did. He did.
I don't think it's necessarily unhealthy to step back and ask questions,
yes.
right? And,
yes.
and ask, Lord, what are you trying to teach me
yes.
through this?
Absolutely.
How do you want me to grow through
right.
this?
Right.
Is there some kind of sin that I do need to examine or take a look at? But it's just when we fester in that and don't move past it, right? Or don't allow God to do the work in us, and that, it just becomes so much more anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, being a better follower doesn't just mean the absence of sin that requires discipline. I mean, it also means just being closer with Him, trusting Him more, having a closer relationship, being a better reflection of Him. And that's kind of where I ended up landing. And, after the cancer thing and the practice going away, I lean on my wife a lot for some accountability and looking at my blind spots. And so I kind of came off of that, I must be guilty of some great sin if God is causing or allowing all this difficulty to come in my life in a 12-month period of time. So.
I think that's common.
Yeah.
Really, right? Like, oh, I must have done something.
Right.
And even though
that's the way the Pharisees used to see.
Sure, exactly. Well, they must have, who did something?
Yeah.
Right? They must have done
You were born
something.
blind, so your parents must have been guilty of some great
something, right? And really, a lot of the time, it's just the sin that's in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we deal with and God uses to grow us and strengthen us and make us more like Christ.
Things that some people may intend for evil, God intends for good.
Sure.
And grows us. So,
sure. All right. So it also impacted your worship, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that impact?
Yeah. Well, the first time I really noticed it, obviously noticed it when it looked like I might have cancer. And there was different stages of that all along. And I think if you boil it all down, it all comes down to realizing, hey, I'm not in control. I know Katie talked about that last week. Anyway, of course, that's what anxiety is. You realize you're not in control of the situation.
Right. Hey, just real quick, because so many of our listeners have communicated the anxiety piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I should just let you get on with it. But it's just this whole idea of you can be dealing with the anxiety and yet still be seeking the Lord and worshiping Him
absolutely.
and loving Him.
Well, most people, I think Katie and Denise the week before that, and I know I would certainly vouch for this as well. It draws you closer.
Yeah.
It can draw you closer, or it can push you away. I guess it sort of depends on where you are, your support system, where you are in your walk. But for me, it drew me closer. I was never like, God, why are you letting this happen to me? I wasn't. I don't think I ever really got angry with God, but it definitely drew me closer, particularly when I was going through the radiation, then started having some physical problems with that, just the weakness, and couldn't turn my head, and my voice was real croaky.
Well, I already told them that you were Elvis.
Oh yeah, I used to sang in the worship ministry at church, and
so not just as Elvis, but as Joe.
Yes, it was a big part of my life.
Yes,
and
singing,
of course, talking.
Yes.
Talking is what I do mostly as a physician. So, when your voice just doesn't want to come out, and that really, in losing 20 pounds, you just realize am I broken? I had several days where I was just like, God, is this what it means to be broken? Physically and mentally. And looking back, I know most people have dealt with a lot worse than what I had to deal with. But in my life, with my frame of reference and my context, that was like, this has got to be what they mean when they say you're broken. So that pushed me more towards, focusing more on God during worship. Because when you're feeling good and things are going great in your life, you go to worship, you sing the songs, and you enjoy it, and you mean it, and you're looking at God, but it's just different. And you know this.
Yeah, the desperation.
Yes, that's a good word for it. Is the desperation and the total reliance. I heard Rick Burgess say one time, being in a place where just getting your foot in front of the other one, you're dependent on God for that.
Oh,
and he said, and that's okay. And he said it was actually good. And it's one of those things, again, nobody would wish for, but it's a really good experience to.
Well, it's humbling, and it changes your perspective completely, and it is good to be desperate for God.
Is it Psalms that says it was good for me to be afflicted? I know there's a Psalm somewhere where he says it is good for me to be afflicted, and I understand that better now.
Right, for sure.
Because you learn lessons about God and your relationship and your walk and the good parts and the bad parts that you just can't learn until you've been through something really difficult physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, professionally. So,
your worship was always heartfelt.
Sure.
Right? We could see it. It was communicated when you were on stage.
But it's easy to do the right things and show the right things,
But now I just have to imagine, and also from my own experience, consider that from that place of wanting God so much, your worship then is changed.
Yeah. All the things that you have get stripped away. For me, it was physical issues, just because I was weak, talking was a problem, certainly couldn't sing, I couldn't even wear shirts with collars because I had radiation burns on my neck, and, didn't go to church for a long time because I just couldn't. So, and that strips away all the stuff that you depend on, breaks down all those walls that you're putting your security in, and then you have no place else to go but God. So.
Well, so that kind of helps segue into the second blog. And so you shared some biblical insights that helped you find peace. So, finding peace, right? That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Right? People want peace.
Yeah.
And so you shared biblical insights that helped you find peace in what is certain.
Yeah. Probably one of the verses that almost anybody that's read the Bible knows is Romans 8:28. God causes all things to come together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And I think it gets used so much we don't really realize what that means and the significance of it and apply it. And it gets kind of cliched and overdone. But that can be a hard verse when you're in the middle of this,
right? When it's the good,
when you've lost a child, or
but
your
when
marriage
it's the
is
bad,
dissolving, or your business is dissolving. God, I can't possibly see the good in this. But I think our problem is because, again, we're sinners, we're short-sighted. We just see here and now. We don't see the long term. So just hanging on to that. Sometimes you just have to hang on to it like it's a mantra. God intends this for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So you just sort of hang on to that. Philippians 4, I listed in the blog as well. That was a really good one. But verses 6 and 7, don't worry about anything, but in everything through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your request be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which surpasses every thought, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And then the follow-up after that, which some people are not as aware of, is verses 8 and 9. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any moral excellence and if there is any praise, dwell on these things. Do what you've learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. There's that peace component. So, so those probably are my best go-to verses in times like this to share with other people, because again, it's the peace component. What if you have peace, the what ifs aren't such a big deal. So
well, the peace is God uses that as a garrison when it's guarding, that idea of the guards. There's a garrison there that's protecting and I mean, our part is just leaning into Him.
Yeah.
Right. And then He's doing all that work.
Right. Well, and I think there's some key points in that, and this might be one of your questions coming up, but talking about being thankful, replacing, you have to be, I learned to be somewhat intentional about you can't just think it away, but it has to start there. You have to start with the intention, I have got to push these thoughts away. What ifs, I can't think about this because it's not going to do any good. I'm just going to spin out.
Well, that's what we've talked about in some of our other interviews, is taking those thoughts captive.
Yes.
And it doesn't, those verses don't use those words, take the thought captive, but they do tell you what to replace.
Right.
The bad stuff.
Right.
You're replacing it with that list of the good things to be thinking on, right?
And that's what verse 8 and 9 says. And, and we've all dealt with little kids, 2-year-olds, or somebody having a temper tantrum. And how do you fix that? You get them distracted. You get them off whatever it is that's giving them the temper tantrum, and you replace it with something better. And as grown-ups, we're the same way. We get into that what if mindset, and we get sort of locked into that. And one of the things that helps me is replacing it with other thoughts. And I think that's what Paul is talking about here. Whatever's good, whatever's lovely, whatever is moral and beautiful and commendable. And so thinking about those things helps push out some of the difficulties. And that's probably just a mental health thing as well. So, but it's biblical. It has a biblical foundation.
Yeah, I like that. In the blog, you brought that out as well. The distractions really is the same thing as taking thoughts captive and replacing them with what's true and holy and right. And I'm not getting the list right, but yeah. All right. So, can you describe? You talk about the reverse order of our norm as it relates to planning for possible what ifs.
Yeah.
So how would you describe that?
Yeah. Well, I think in the Bible kind of, if you don't really look at it, seems a little contradictory at times, because parts of the Bible talk about the value of planning, particularly if it's planning in God's will. And then other parts of the Bible, what Jesus says, what James says is, don't worry about tomorrow. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Jesus said that. In James in chapter 4, he says, we say we're going to do this. I'm going to go to this town and that town, and we're going to make money. And James says, actually, we should realize we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Our life is just a vapor. Instead, we should say, whatever God wills, that's what we're going to do. So a lot of this is kind of a balance between, prudent planning and trying to plan too much. That's where I would get spun out, trying to plan for every opportunity, plan for every potentiality, and it just doesn't work like that. So, typically what we do is when something happens, when a bad situation pops up, we start thinking, what am I going to do? Got to make a plan, particularly guys. And we're the planners, we're the fixers. And so with time, I'm getting better. In this most recent episode in the fall, with this practice leaving, I was a little bit more quickly able to come off of my plan and say, okay, God, obviously this is something from your hand, and you've got something planned for it, and you've got a better thing for me. So I think when doing the reverse plan, basically to me just means giving it to God first. And what I'm guilty of, sometimes when I do give it to God, I lay it at His feet and then I pick it right back up. So it's, and then you still end up stressing over it. So
that seems common.
Yeah. And I think it is. And just trying to keep things in the right order. What should we do first? Typically, prayer is the last thing that we do. We've done everything that we could do. We've planned everything. We've talked.
Well, I might as well pray about it.
Yeah, we talked about it. Oh, now I'm going to pray about it. I guess I ought to pray about it. I've done everything else. It should be the other way. That should be the very first thing that we do, because then we're in better communication with God, and He can direct us on the things that we do, so we're more efficient with what we do.
So you've mentioned the practice a couple times, and so I think it's valuable that you go ahead and let people know that you've landed in a good spot now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah, basically the company that owned our practice was pulling out. So our group with 5 doctors and 3 or 4 nurse practitioners, we started talking with CRMC, and so we've joined their medical group. And basically for me, what that allowed me to do was come back to the office where I had spent my entire professional career. So, hopefully, Lord willing, I'll get to, if that's His plan, I'll get to retire in the same place that I started my career from, and that's not very common. So, so for me and for Kim, it worked out very, very well. And, it was something that you never could have seen coming 6 months ago. I mean, it just came literally out of the blue. They didn't give us any warning that they were going to do this at all. It just came out of the blue. And so it's been, fortunately, it wasn't a real long time frame. We could see all this kind of happen. It all happened pretty fast.
And I mean, God worked it out.
Yeah.
And in this case,
right.
It ended up being such a positive thing.
Definitely a positive.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and some people think it's a retroactive thing that God reacts to a situation. I don't. I think God allowed this or even caused it to happen. And, the ripple effects for everybody involved, we'll never see all those. So
sometimes you see posted on Facebook or wherever, wherever social media, and you see people praising God for all these blessings.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder, and I mean, I'm happy for them, truly, right? But I can't help but wonder, well, what if what you're considering the good thing didn't happen? Are you still praising God?
Yes.
Right? So you got the cancer diagnosis, and that wasn't, we wouldn't call that a good thing from our perspective. Right. But then you got, the practice working out pretty well. And we would call that a good thing from our perspective. And yet God calls them and uses them both as good.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, because we give Him the praise when things happen well, but what if we don't get the desired result? What if the marriage falls apart, or the business falls apart, and you're looking for a job for a year, and the cancer doesn't get better, or the side effects don't get better? Is God still good in those situations? And the answer has to be yes.
Yes.
We don't see the effects. I'm sure it didn't look very good when they were pulling Jesus down off the cross. That was the worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever. But that was also the best thing that ever happened to anybody ever. So I fall back on that a lot too. God allows bad things to happen. The story of Joseph, we're familiar with that. All the bad things that happened to him outside of his control, never planned. It wasn't his fault, but it was all ultimately for good. So those are the kind of things that I hold on to when going through that, and pushing away the what ifs, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you think of all the potentialities. So,
yeah. All right. I like it. So practical steps for us now, Dr. Joe. How practical steps that help us embrace what is certain.
Yeah. When I definitely didn't coin the what is phrase. There's I just probably 2 or 3 weeks, and this has to be God's timing, 2 or 3 weeks after the first blog was posted, there was a reel on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. There's a pastor counselor named Ryan Miller. And that's what he was talking about, what is. And I was like, this is like 2 weeks after I've written this blog. And he was talking about, so a lot of what I said in the blog was from him. And it's countering the what ifs with what is. And that gets back to that Philippians 4, replacing the uncertainties and the potential pain with what you definitely know for sure. I think Katie said, if you're thankful and you're grateful, you can't be anxious. And so I think that's what Paul was talking about in Philippians 4. If we concentrate on the things that we do have to be grateful for, then that helps to push away a lot of the uncertainties. I saw a quote from David Jeremiah about a month or so ago, and he said, we can't enjoy life with all the uncertainties until we rest into the certainty of who God is.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So that starts with God's Word. We just have to spend time in God's Word with God's people, worshiping God, and that's how that all just sort of soaks into our fabric and our being and our heart, and it becomes part of who you are. And so that's really where it has to start. We don't know the certainties of God if we don't know God. Mm-hmm. And we know God most through his word. And like in our small group, we've been together for a long time. We've had babies and deaths and all these different kind of things. And when you see other Christians, and your story is a great example, I'm sure that's why you do a lot of what you do, is that helps other Christians and other people in general to see how God works through these situations. So,
when God puts a ministry on your heart and then gives you the power to do it, mm-hmm. there's nothing like it. Right. There's really nothing like, honestly, a feeling. I want to call it a feeling. Eric wouldn't maybe not call it a feeling. I don't know. Yeah. But just how the Holy Spirit works through you mm-hmm. and empowers you mm-hmm. to do what he's called you to do. Mm-hmm. It's just really powerful thing.
It's easy is too simple of a word to say, but it's almost easy. I heard someone describe it like this. It's like when you're a baseball player and you hit the ball with the sweet part of the bat, or you're playing tennis and you hit on the sweet spot and it just feels right. Mm. That's what it is when you're doing something that God is calling you to do.
Well, and people will say, I don't know how you do it, or I don't know how you do that, or I could never. Yeah. And well, it's not me.
Yeah, you can't.
It's God's power.
I can't. You can't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, well, we're gonna wrap this up here in just a little bit, but I've been closing out these interviews by tying your story in with Christmas, right? Yeah. Here at Christmas time, telling our stories, how that gives courage to others that are listening. And so how does remembering that real peace is available impact us, mm-hmm. especially if we are struggling at Christmas?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Well, one of the phrases that everybody hears at Christmas is peace on earth, goodwill to men, but so many people don't have that peace. Mm. And Jesus himself said, I didn't come to bring peace, I came to bring division. But I think what Scripture is really talking about and what we can look for is realizing that all the difficulties that we have here, the cancers and the deaths and the difficulties and the job situation and the relationships, all that difficulty is going to go away because Jesus came, gave us a path to salvation, and that it's like Pastor Keith tells us. He said all the difficulties that we deal with in this earth and this life, when we get to heaven, when we have eternity with Jesus, it's going to seem like one bad night in a cheap hotel. Yeah, and that's what it's going to seem like. And good. So that gives you hope. Yeah. You can get through something. I could get through my radiation knowing that there's going to be an end to it, and it is going to get better. I got great support from a lot of other people who said it's going to get better. This is what you're experiencing. It's going to get better. Well, because of Christmas, because of what God did for us at Christmas, we have that assurance that it is going to get better, whatever the situation is. And there's lots of it. I see it in my office, and we know people are going through difficult situations. So, when peace on earth, goodwill towards men, to me, a lot of that peace is because this situation, the brokenness that we live in, the sin in our own lives, the difficulties, it's not going to be there forever. So
that's a great perspective. Yeah. That has helped me numerous times to think heavenward. Right. Think eternally.
Right.
And then it just changes your perspective mm-hmm. for the here and now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, there's nothing here on this earth that's going to last forever. Right. Eternity is going to last.
And plus, just the mere fact that Christmas happened proved all the prophecies that we had, which tells us that God's word is true and it's real, and he keeps his promises, and that he is a God that cares. He's a God that's involved. He's a God that's near. He's not standoffish. He didn't twist the top and just let it spin down. And that's the other part of the Christmas story that helps me get through some difficult situations. So,
well, I am so glad you came in.
Hey, well, it's good to be here.
Thank you for coming in and spreading Christmas courage. Sharing our stories is important.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it helps others not feel so alone. Yeah. I think feeling alone is one of the big things that Satan wants to use. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's a good example of how it's helped me be a doctor, because now I can talk with patients who are going through really difficult physical or emotional situations, say, hey, I've been there and I know what you're feeling. And you can get through this, and this is what's helped me. It gives me more credibility and more more empathy, I guess, too. So,
like Jesus Christ is our great high priest, right? Who, I mean, he sympathizes with us. And then these things that we go through help us be so much more sympathetic, empathetic, right? So it gives those that are going through the struggle, especially at Christmas, real courage for their journey.
Yeah, because Christmas magnifies everything, good and bad.
That's a wrap for today. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my website, juliefillinger.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, I pray you take courage for your journey and that these words of truth will give you strength for every step.